AZ-900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals exam practice questions are available in the video for you to study. Which two features or services can be integrated with Azure Monitor? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note: each correct answer is worth 1 point. A. Application Insights. B. Azure Advisor. C. Azure Status. D. Azure Service Health. E. Log Analytics. The answer is A. Application Insights. It is a feature of Azure Monitor that provides performance and usage data for applications. It helps you monitor the availability, performance, and usage patterns of your applications, both on Azure and on-premises. Log Analytics. This is a tool within Azure Monitor that allows you to collect and analyze log data from various sources, including virtual machines, applications, and Azure resources. It helps in identifying issues, generating insights, and optimizing your environment. You have a set of Azure policies. You need to group related policies together. What should you use? A. Exemptions. B. Metadata. C. Parameters. D. Initiatives. The answer is D. In Azure, initiatives are used to group related policies together. An initiative is a collection of Azure policies that are managed and assigned as a single unit. This helps you apply and manage a set of policies together, making it easier to implement governance and compliance at scale. You need to migrate an on-premises server by using a lift and shift migration. Which type of cloud service should you migrate? A. Infrastructure as a service, LaaS. B. Software as a service, SaaS. C. Platform as a service, PaaS. The answer is A. A lift and shift migration involves moving an existing on-premises server or application to the cloud with minimal changes. The most suitable cloud service for this type of migration is Infrastructure as a Service, IaaS, as it provides virtual machines and infrastructure resources that closely mirror the on-premises environment. This allows you to move your existing workloads to the cloud while retaining full control over the operating system and applications. Which Azure service is an example of serverless computing? A. Azure Dedicated Hosts. B. Azure Virtual Machines. C. Azure Functions. D. Azure Storage Account. The answer is C. Azure Functions is an example of serverless computing. Serverless computing allows you to run code in response to events without having to manage or provision servers. You just write the code, and Azure automatically handles the infrastructure, scaling, and execution. Azure Functions. It lets you run small pieces of code, called functions, triggered by events like HTTP requests, database changes, or timer-based events. You are billed only for the time your code runs, and you don't have to manage the underlying infrastructure. What should a desktop application use to interact with Azure and manage resources? A. Azure Resource Manager, ARM, templates. B. APIs. C. Azure Cloud Shell. D. Azure Command Line Interface, CLI. The answer is B. A desktop application that needs to interact with Azure and manage resources should use Azure APIs. Azure provides RESTful APIs that allow applications to programmatically interact with Azure services, manage resources, and perform various operations like provisioning, scaling, and configuring services. APIs. These are the preferred way for applications, including desktop apps, to interact with Azure. The Azure REST APIs allow developers to manage resources, and they can be used from any platform, including desktop applications, to programmatically manage Azure resources. Which cloud computing benefit provides continuous user access to a cloud-based application with minimal downtime? A. High availability. B. Elasticity. C. Scalability. D. Agility. The answer is B. High availability refers to the ability of a system or service to remain accessible with minimal downtime. Cloud providers design services to be highly available by deploying them across multiple data centers, regions, and availability zones to ensure that users can access applications with minimal interruptions, even in the event of failures. High availability ensures that cloud-based applications can continue to run with minimal downtime, providing continuous access for users. In the software as a service, SaaS, cloud service, which responsibility is shared between Microsoft and the customer? A. Identity and directory infrastructure management. B. Application management. C. Information and data management. D. Operating system updates. The answer is A. In a software as a service, SaaS, model, Microsoft typically manages the application and underlying infrastructure, including updates, security patches, and server management. However, certain responsibilities, such as managing identity and directory infrastructure, for example, Azure Active Directory or user access management, are shared between Microsoft and the customer. Identity and directory infrastructure management. While Microsoft provides the identity and directory service, like Azure Active Directory, the customer is responsible for managing user identities, roles, and access controls within their organization. What provides a unified way to project and manage non-Azure resources in Azure Resource Manager, ARM? A. Azure Arc. B. Azure AD Connect. C. Azure Migrate. D. Azure Front Door. The answer is A. Azure Arc is a service that extends Azure Resource Manager, ARM, to manage non-Azure resources, such as on-premises servers, virtual machines, Kubernetes clusters, and other infrastructure outside of Azure, from within the Azure portal. It provides a unified management plane that allows you to project and manage resources across hybrid and multi-cloud environments. Azure Arc. This allows you to manage resources that aren't natively part of Azure, such as those running on-premises or in other cloud environments, by bringing them into Azure Resource Manager for consistent management. You need to start Azure Cloud Shell. What should you use? A. Azure PowerShell. B. An Azure Resource Manager, ARM, template. C. The Azure Portal. D. Azure Command Line Interface, CLI. The answer is C. Azure Cloud Shell is a browser-based shell that provides command line access to manage Azure resources. The easiest way to start Azure Cloud Shell is through the Azure portal. Once you're logged into the portal, you can launch Cloud Shell directly from the top navigation bar. The Azure portal. This is the primary and most straightforward way to access Azure Cloud Shell. Once inside the portal, you'll see an icon for Cloud Shell that allows you to launch it instantly. Which two features of services can be integrated with Azure Monitor? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note each correct answer is worth 1 point. A. Azure Service Health. B. Azure Advisor. C. Azure Status. D. Application Insights. E. Log Analytics. The answer is D. Azure Monitor integrates with several Azure services to provide comprehensive monitoring, logging, and analytics capabilities. The two features listed here that integrate with Azure Monitor are Application Insights. It is a feature within Azure Monitor that helps you monitor and troubleshoot the performance and usage of your applications, providing real-time analytics on application health, user interactions, and performance issues. Log Analytics. This is another feature within Azure Monitor that allows you to collect, analyze, and visualize log data from various Azure resources and on-premises machines. It's crucial for querying and gaining insights from the data collected by Azure Monitor.